And those kids have nothing to look forward to. Those families have nothing to look forward to. Their education doesn't even exist. They don't even know what school is. They don't even know what English class or have that experience of going to high school or middle school or the experience of sleeping in a bed with a mattress. And those little things we all take for granted every day. And over 500 kids can't even experience that. But at least they're getting fed and they have food now. And so that was one of our major contributions, was taking care of those kids and sacrificing our revenue from that location to do so.
This episode is brought to you by Backlooper. If you're tired of learning about guest complaints from online reviews, listen to this. It's time to protect your reputation while still getting valuable data so you can make enhancements to your guest experience. Using the most effective ways to generate responses, combined with intuitive reporting that quickly points out the largest issues, Backlooper enables you to strengthen your operations with superior guest experience intelligence that leads to higher satisfaction. Now more than ever, we need to bring our guests into the conversation so they can be a part of our industry's success. Get started today with no minimum commitment by visiting backlooper.com or email me directly at josh@backlooper.com. Welcome to the Attraction Pros podcast, where we discuss the latest trends and challenges facing the attractions industry today.
We chat with some of the top leaders in the field and provide resources that will help develop your career in this great industry.
I am Josh Liebman, founder of Backlooper. I help attractions collect guest feedback and identify top priorities needed for improvement.
And I'm Matt Heller, founder of Performance Optimist Consulting. I help leaders lead so they can increase employee engagement and retention.
Now sit upright, hold on tight, and get ready for the Attraction Pros podcast. Hey, Matt, how's it going?
It's going great, Josh. How about you?
Going really well. Matt, question for you. As a new dog owner, how are things going? How's Otis doing these days?
I appreciate you asking. He is doing fantastically. He's fantastic. He just turned 8 months old at the time of this recording, and he has personality like any animal would. So you see his facial expressions, and you can tell when he's feeling certain ways and stuff like that. But I love to take him on walks, and I do some of my best thinking when I'm walking him. So that's really, really cool. Or I listen to podcasts. So it's been great. We've had him for like 4 months now. So to see him grow and to develop, and it's been wonderful. Why do you ask about Otis?
Well, first, I'm just doing some math here. If he's 8 months old, then in dog years, that's like 7 2/3, right?
Yeah. He's not. Well, he's not quite a year yet. So actually, he'd be less than 7.
Right. So I'm sorry, 4 2/3.
Yeah,
he'd be 4 2/3 years.
He's still a puppy. He's still young. He's still a bundle of energy.
What's he eating these days?
He is well. We're actually kind of in the middle of kind of switching him over from some puppy kibble to bigger dog kibble. But I think the reason you're asking is because of the treats that he's eating. He's got all kinds of fancy treats, but he's never had fish bark.
He's never had fish bark or any kind of fish jerky? What kind of dog owner are you?
Apparently not a very good one.
No, I think you're a great dog owner. But our guest today is a serial entrepreneur, I would say the least, and that's probably even an understatement. Luke Schueler, he's the COO and co-founder of Flying Squirrel Sports, which is a chain of trampoline parks, as well as Shock Trampoline Park. So he's on the manufacturer's end of it. And Fish Bark just happens to be another one of the entrepreneurial endeavors that he is involved in, which is going to be exciting to talk about, to talk about how fish jerky is made and sold and how that concept came about, which of course is a little bit of a deviation from the normal content that we talk about on Attraction Pros. We're not dog treat pros or fish jerky pros podcast.
Although we did take a while to talk about the fish tube.
The fish tube. Yeah. Oh, I miss the fish tube. But anyway, We're going to talk about trampoline parks. We're going to talk about entrepreneurship. We're going to talk about innovation. We're going to talk about branding. We're going to talk about community relations and some of the really cool things that Luke and Flying Squirrel, have been able to do in the communities that they're involved in, some of the parks that they run. And overall, I mean, this is just a really interesting, wide-ranging conversation that we're going to cover a lot of ground here.
You know what other word we're going to talk about?
I'm looking at my notes here.
It begins with the letter P. Passion.
Letter P. Yeah.
Passion.
That's true. Oh, yep. I've got it written down a couple of times.
He mentions
on my notepad here.
He mentions passion a number of times, and to hear about how he takes an idea, or he and his brother and his partners take an idea, and almost doesn't matter what the naysayers say, right? He's passionate about it. He feels it in his gut that this is the right thing to do, and he just goes for it. And you talk about, we don't necessarily talk about dog treats on the podcast, but his passion for that and how that came about, I think, is a great lesson for any business leader, any entrepreneur. So I think we should go ahead and get to this passionate and innovative conversation with Luke.
I'd say let's do it. Luke Schueler, co-founder and COO of Flying Squirrel Sports. Welcome to the Attraction Pros podcast. How you doing today?
Doing great. How are you doing?
Doing great. Really excited to have you here. I feel like we have a really exciting interview ahead of us. We want to talk about Flying Squirrel. We want to talk about Shock. We want to talk about all of your patents and your entrepreneurial journey. And I want to start with your LinkedIn profile, and specifically the first sentence, because it really, I would say, jumped out when you pull up your profile and when you read it. It says you are an innovator, entrepreneur, inventor, founder, business owner, lifelong startup junkie, and on occasion, a teacher of these subjects. That's a loaded sentence right there. I love it. Can you give us just kind of the high level, big picture on all that?
Yeah, for sure. So my passion is really startups for companies. So taking a new idea, a new product, and really diving into seeing how well that business model would work. A lot of my companies are all startups. So back in the day, we would review new business models, new industry attractions, and at the end of the day, we would really look at the bigger picture. And is it a credible startup? We create the business plan, and then also have an idea with what product that would be good for that business model. And so it involved new innovation for products that would create the actual business itself. And so a lot of our time is spent evaluating, analyzing, and then inventing the product for the industry or the specific industry, the business that we're going into. And so that's really my passion, is diving into the nitty-gritty startup phase. And startups are always complicated, they're challenging, and that's what I enjoy. And a lot of my companies, like Flying Squirrel Sports, we have patented products that we use that are different in the industry compared to our competitors. And it all comes down to providing a solution to the problem. And once that solution is found, we really take our passion and we dive into it and create the best product, the best solution for the problem in the industry. And so overall, our goal is to create something unique, a niche, and at the end of the day, that can be profitable. And the challenge is really what drives us and drives myself, and the passion. Without passion, the product is just a product. But when you combine passion and your knowledge, and then also when you're creating that product from scratch, it really is rewarding. Launching the product, launching the business, and seeing the reaction from customers that purchase a product or purchase a service. So at the end of the day, we like to take new ideas that people may have, but they may not have the business experience. And that's where we come in, we evaluate, and then we help open new businesses and new ideas, new inventions due to those ideas that may be created by other people that don't have the business skills. So when it comes down to be a startup junkie, that's really what I enjoy, is because you go through all those headaches, those problems, and you're able to really feel rewarded at the end of the day if the business does turn out to be successful.
So Luke, I'm curious, not everybody is a startup junkie, and certainly not everybody is equipped to, even have one startup business. So what is it about you that drives you to start, be a startup? I mean, did you have a lemonade stand when you were little? Did you, sell things door to door? Like, where did it come from for you?
I guess it would come from my father, who started his own company and business in the 70s. And he started log homes and developed a patent for the log home application. And ever since then, I've been working my whole life. And so really knowing the value of a dollar when you're young really kind of drives you to understand that hard work and the reward for hard work really comes with the drive and dedication you put into the work itself. And so my father has a big influence on kind of that inventor and also startup mindset.
So have you ever had a normal job?
Yes, I have. In high school and college, I did have normal working jobs, but I always knew that I'd work for myself one day. And that was my goal. It was to do something I'm passionate about, and most importantly, to create something that is unique and overall be my own boss.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So can you tell us a little bit behind the inspiration for Flying Squirrel, of you and your brother co-founding, this amazing chain of trampoline parks?
Yeah, for sure. So I have a twin brother, Cody. He's my partner in every business. So basically it's me times two. We look the same, talk the same. You really can't tell the difference. So if you met my brother, you may have thought it was me at one point, but so the inspiration really came.
Uh-oh.
And throughout operating parts, which was a different brand. So
Hey,
overall operating parts.
So I think you're starting to freeze again.
We were able to really see the problems in the. Is it breaking up?
Yeah.
Is it freezing still?
Now it's better, but just as you were getting into that answer, you kind of froze again and started going real slow.
Okay.
I think the last thing I heard was, so the inspiration was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see if the internet is back. There we go. All right, we should be good now. Cool. Sorry about that. The day, of course, we have internet problems is right now.
Of course. My Wi-Fi was out all day yesterday from a huge storm that we had yesterday, and then or the day before, and then we woke up this morning. We're like, all right, cool, it's back. All right, so
go back into that answer, and you'll just cut out this. Premise.
Yeah, I was gonna say you mentioned Cody. You said your twin brother. You said me times two. Looks like you, sounds like you, and then I think it was just after that. So I think it started with, so the inspiration came from, and I think that was the last thing I saw.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll go back right into that. So the inspiration came from operating trampoline parks for over a decade, since 2009. At that point in time, it was actually our previous company in Sky Zone was the only trampoline parks in the whole entire world. And so it was just two companies, not very many locations. And for those first 5 years of operating parks, owning trampoline parks and using other equipment and doing cheap build outs, looking for a better ROI, we noticed there were several issues kind of with that business model. First of all, the equipment that we were using always had issues failing, welds cracking, spring connections breaking, loud squeaks, just an overall pain and liability that we constantly had to manage. And then on top of that, by saving money on let's say doing a startup with a limited budget, You know, the quality of the build out was less, and the wow factor was still there when you came in, but the details weren't there. And so as we expanded with the first company, we soon realized that we needed to change the model. And that's when the inspiration started to happen, was with the overall design and layout of parks. We started to notice parents. Now, from a parent's perspective, where do they come in and play when they come into an entertainment center? You know, especially if they have kids. So if they have kids, now the primary objective is to take care of the parents and take care of the kids, but overall provide a better experience for them as a whole, the whole family. And so we had blind spots, we had arena style courts during that time, and we had limited seating, uncomfortable seating, and you know, very, very rare it would be for a parent to come in and be like, I love this place, it's comfortable to sit down, I want to stay here for a long time. It was more, you come in, you jump, it's a great place, awesome concept, but we're going to leave now. And so then it started dialing, we started tracking injury statistics, where were jumpers getting hurt, what we needed to improve on for the operations point of view. Now, with all our data we collected over the 5 years of operating parks with various manufacturers for trampoline equipment, straight steel structures, we started to realize that the biggest impact for injuries would be jumpers involving landing on the trampoline pads that overlay the steel framing. And so that was when we started to dial in, well, is it because of tennis shoes? Because at that time it was either bare feet or tennis shoes. Trampoline socks did not exist. And so once we factored in injuries do come from using shoes, then we started getting into sock development and started creating trampoline socks. So that helped eliminate injuries, but the injuries still happened often on the pads that are over the steel frames. And on top of that, having welds break, having bed rails fall off during operations is not a good view for the customers, and it also is bad for liability reasons. And so then our overall goal was, how do we make it a safer place? How do we make it better for parents? How do we make it a whole family experience, but an overall better experience from all the layouts, trial and error that we've gone through for design, and then most importantly, it came down to equipment. So that's when the concept of let's do this better. We got to start a new company. We got to have a whole new image, and we have to really dial in the family-friendly whole fun center, but most importantly, cater to the parents and to safety. And so that's when Flying Squirrel, the idea of Flying Squirrel came about. Since at that time, our first Flying Squirrel park we decided to open was in Alberta, Canada. And a lot of people say, well, why Canada? Well, at that time, there was no entertainment in Canada. It was mainly just the standard arcade bowling alleys. And the perk there was long winters, not very many indoor attractions for kids. And so we took our first Flying Squirrel concept, designed it, picked out a location in North Calgary, Alberta. And in 2015, we launched the first Flying Squirrel Park. Now that included a whole new design, more open layout, comfortable seating, and the overall flow of the customer traffic was really evaluated from the beginning of the experience. Now, once that park was up, we decided to change the branding. Now, what branding would we do? Well, the name Flying Squirrel, we created that. That was after my dog at the time, at a Havanese. And every time he got shaved, he looked like a white albino squirrel. And so I'd throw him up. He loves to be thrown up in the air, about 10 to 15 feet in the air to catch him. I don't know, it's so odd, but he loved it. And so when we decided to pick out a name, that dog I named Squirrel. So at that point in time, after tossing the dog up, well, Flying Squirrel kind of popped out. And that's when the name was just kind of clicked. It was unique, it was abnormal, it involved an animal. And now what colors do we do with that branding that's now unique and abnormal? Well, pink was the first option. Now going with pink was a big risk because it's basically feminine color. Now will that deter boys, younger children that are males, because pink is not a male color. And so we were told not to do it from branding specialists, but we ended up going with the pink, with the Flying Squirrel and logo and branding. And then overall, it created our brand today was the pink flying squirrel, pink, gray, teal colors, and it kind of set us aside in the industry as being different. And the first location in North Calgary was so popular that it kind of all of Canada started hearing about flying squirrel. And that's when we knew that we have a market here. And so we decided right from then after the first year to target Ontario, Canada, because the population is very dense, long winters, no entertainment. So Hamilton, Ontario location then came into play. And at that exact moment as well, this design for the shock trampoline structure with the shock absorbing technology with the German gas shocks incorporated inside the trampoline framework. We were working on that design for about 4 years. Didn't really go into it until our second location, when we still noticed the injuries that were happening on top of the trampoline pads in our Alberta park. And since it was a very busy park, the statistics really popped out and kind of screamed, yes, this is a problem. We need to do something about it. And so with all the passion we have for the industry, for our branding, for the products, and specifically for customer safety, we dove into it, designed it, and then the first shock structure of its kind was put into our Hamilton, Ontario Flying Squirrel Park. And that right there, the innovation, the branding from Flying Squirrel, and the whole new concept of a family-friendly, open layout, comfortable for parents, safety aspect really took place in that location. All our platforms are not just standard carpet bonded foam padding on the platforms. We created bigger platforms, and we decided to use high-end luxury carpets and then put padding underneath it. So it's kind of like walking into your living room, but wow, it's padded. So it gave a different perception from parents when they walked into our facility. They noticed right away there was a difference just upon the first step. And so that really made a big difference and a big unique difference between our competitors at that time. And really what it comes down to is the safety aspect of our patrons, and then the overall having bigger platforms, bigger spread out areas, comfortable seating for the parents, and really catered to being able to see your child from every point of view in the park. There's nothing worse to a parent when you go into an entertainment facility and then all of a sudden your child's running into a section of the park and you can't see them. And now you're running after your child. You can't relax. So that was the whole goal, was as a parent, can you sit down and then look up and look at the entire facility and see your child? And that was how our layout started to begin catering to the parents and safety as well. Because parents, at the end of the day, they want to relax, they want their kids to burn off energy, but they also want them to be safe. How can they be safe if they can't see their kids? Now, if they can't see their kids and their kid gets hurt, well, why? You know, how did they get hurt? They don't know. They didn't see them. But now they have a chance to view them at any angle, any part of the park. And while they can relax, read a book, be on their computer, then also know that they're at the safest trampoline park in the area because of the new safety aspect of the shock trampoline park structure and our padding on the flooring. Every single part of the park is padded no matter what, because if you're, in our point of view, you have to treat it as if you're a drunk 2-year-old. If you're a drunk 2-year-old, what can you lick, taste, touch, climb, or get into that could possibly cause a problem? And that's how our safety aspect and our design from the park really comes about, is from that drunk 2-year-old point of view.
Yeah, Luke, there's a lot in there that I would love to ask some follow-up questions on. The one big thing that stuck out to me as you were talking about your brand specifically is, you talked about going to a brand expert and they said you probably shouldn't do that, but you did it anyway. It reminds me of what you said earlier about passion, and how if you've got passion behind a product, it really makes a difference. And I'm curious if that same thought process worked for the brand. Like, if you have passion for the brand, it doesn't really matter what the branding expert says, we're going to make it work. So I'm curious if that was kind of the thought process and if that's really what happened.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. We were told by many designers and branding experts that using pink is a bad idea because you're not going to cater to the male customers and it'll deter them. And at that point, there was a decision to be made. Well, why would it deter them? If the brand is unique, if it's different, the color should make a statement and match the branding, not match if it's feminine or male targeting, right? So we ultimately made that decision. It was a risky decision because you have experts telling you, no, don't do this. And then here, we're like, well, we're not branding experts, but we have a great brand. So do we roll with it or not? So we rolled the dice and said, no, we're positive. We think people will like it, and it'll make us different. And to this day, I never regret that decision, because if I did go with a different color, it wouldn't match the brand, and it wouldn't make it as unique, because at that time, no one used pink besides T-Mobile. That was about it.
Yeah. And Pepto-Bismol or
Yeah.
double bubble, or, So did you prove them wrong? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So did you prove the experts wrong? Have you found that?
Yeah, we definitely proved the experts wrong, which was great. It felt very rewarding, because it was a gamble to go that route. And then also when you're asking for outside investment too, and when they see the pink and all that, there is questions about that too. Well, is pink really the route to go? Because that seems like a female business, and providing confidence to getting investment for, that branding for what we did also was questioned. But at the end of the day, we took that gamble and we were right, and it really made our brand different in the entire industry. And without taking that gamble and being passionate about what we created and what we thought would work, it may be different today. It may not have been as successful. It may not have been as unique of a brand. So at the end of the day, if you're passionate about it, you might as well roll with what your gut tells you. And then if it doesn't work, then change it along the way.
So you mentioned the outside investment that you were seeking, and curious if you can share, what that process is like, looking for that type of funding. I'm sure a lot of us, watch Shark Tank a lot, and, there's a lot of that TV magic that goes into it, but I'm sure that there's a lot that we don't see from it as well. Can you share a little bit about kind of just what that process is like, for you personally going through it and seeking that VC funding or investor funding?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny looking back in the past on our first pitch to outside investment. We had this concept in 2000, around the end of 2007, early 2008, and pitching a concept to baby boomers that have money that may not understand entertainment is very interesting, because a lot of our reaction was like, who the hell is going to pay $10 to jump on a trampoline? At that time, we were only asking for $10 an hour. That was our model, and that was the common feedback. Who the hell is going to pay $10 to jump on a trampoline when you have one in your backyard, or you can go buy one? Then our response, well, everyone is going to. The reason why is you can't fall off it. It's safer, and it's more of a social environment, and it's active, it's recreational, it boosts coordination. It's healthy for the body. Detoxes it. And also it's a family fun adventure that you get away from the house from. So at the end of the day, every family is looking for entertainment to leave their house to have a family bonding moment that's not available at home on your backyard trampoline. And so it took about a year of going through, no, wow, this is a joke. Who the hell's going to do this? And it really did. It did hurt us emotionally, because maybe at one point we're like, maybe this is an unrealistic idea or an unrealistic model. But we still kept going strong, and we finally found a couple of people. And when you're getting investors that invest in this so-called idea that really does not exist, it's new. The hard part about that is when you're asking for $1 million, and then you're telling them you're going to return their money within a few years, 2 to 5 years. At that point, you're rolling the dice because you don't know, because you've never done it before. The business model is really not out there yet. And so what we did is we found various family members that had friends that with deep pockets, and kind of went the more of the loan route at first, a personal loan route. Then it morphed into, okay, yeah, we'll try it out. First location, then if we like it, we might invest into it. But after we started that first location that opened up in Portland, Oregon, and then Washington, it started to trickle in more money. And all the people who then doubted the concept, doubted our business model, started reaching back out to us because they heard about this place. They heard about how awesome it was. And then they also went to it and saw how many people were there. And then from then on out, all the people that said no were begging us to get into the business model. But it takes about a year of explaining, a year of strategies behind it. How are they going to return on their investments? And did they give us the money all up front? No. They gave it to us in batches. So then that way, if they felt uncomfortable, most likely they would have stopped the next funding. But as the process went on, it's very difficult creating a business plan with the ROI and then, with the forecast of 5 to 10 years for a model that doesn't exist. Seems like a fantasy land, especially with the numbers we kind of presented, because that's what we believed it would do. Now, the best part about that is what we believed it would do, it actually doubled that. So that felt good. But at first, the first 6 months, people would walk in, maybe 10 jumpers a day would come in. Month 1, yeah, this is not working. Month 2, wow, this is really not working. Month 3, yes, we're deep in the water now. We're about to drown. And then month 4, business started picking up. And then we realized the concept, people didn't understand what a trampoline park was. And so then we developed a commercial kind of explaining what a trampoline park is and really adapting that concept to the community around us. And once they saw the commercial, people immediately understood what a trampoline park was. And then the business just boomed. And then we had sold out lines all the time. And from there on out, it changed. And it was very easy for us to find investment from that.
Luke, I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about your attraction mix, because obviously, your trampolines are a big part of the deal. But, as I look at your facilities and I, kind of watch your videos and things, it's kind of a combination of Cirque du Soleil and American Gladiator, right? All the different things that you have going on there. So can you talk through a little bit about your decision and how you decide what kind of attractions to put in there, that are over and above trampolines and how that fits into the mix?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, our strategy behind that is that there is no entertainment facility in the area we're looking at. The buildings, nearby arcades, bowling alleys, standard entertainments. Our first strategy is let's just adapt trampoline attractions, but we'll lease enough space where we have room to expand. Mm-hmm. Now, the reason why we do that is year 1 and 2 are great. Year 3, like any business, you start to plateau. And so at that plateau year, we incorporate new attractions that aren't trampoline based. Then we gain another 20% in revenue for that year going on. And so we start off with standard trampoline courts, freestyle courts, dunk hoops, battle beams, kiddie courts, foam pits, airbags, and then about 10,000 square feet to 50,000 square feet. We like to have additional room to add our new concept attractions, our innovative new designs that we are constantly coming up with. Because at the time when you design a park, that park actually doesn't get built for about a year or a year and a half. And if it goes bad, it doesn't get built until 2 years, if there's issues. So once that park opens up, that was the design and layout from about a year and a half, 2 years ago. So a lot changes within that time period. Mm-hmm. So during that time period, we understand that 2 years from now, we're going to have different attractions. We're going to design new equipment. We're going to have new inventions. We're going to have totally new, unique experiences that we want to incorporate. And the best time to do that is year 2 or 3 to get that revenue back up after everyone's kind of burnt out of the same attraction. And then specifically, if there is no competitors around, that's a great model to go with. But now today's environment is kind of changing with so many competitors being out there that are going above and beyond for their first initial build. And so it kind of depends on the area for attractions, but a good model is to start off with what you have, a minimum base level, and then upgrade year 2. So the longevity of the business performs over time rather than just the peak 2 years.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, and interesting to kind of learn that process, and that you kind of develop, this standard model for how it is that you're going to open, and then projecting out as far as, what it's going to look, a few years down the road, and then looking at it saying, okay, we've got this template, but also acknowledging that that can't just be the cookie cutter model, depending on the market that you're going into and how many other competitors are in the space. And then watching the industry as a whole, as far as what other competitors are doing. Like you said, some places that are going in and just kind of putting all their chips on the table for their grand opening. Is that something that has impacted the way you strategize new locations, or is that also just something that you're monitoring or offering that alternative to, while kind of sticking to the process that has been working very well for the last several years?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, with us specifically, the nice thing about our builds is we take that building layout and we custom fabricate all the equipment to fit that building layout. So we're able to maximize every square inch of the space, even if it's an odd shape. Interior columns, as we're a manufacturer of shock trampoline parks, we're able to really design new equipment around the space in general. And so by adding, in my opinion, by adding all those attractions at one time, sure, you're going to have a great first year 1 and 2, but that year 3, you're still going to have a downturn because everyone's already experienced all those attractions. So what's new? Well, now instead of adding attractions, you got to take attractions out to fit in that space if you go above and beyond for the first initial opening. Now, it can work. It does kind of eliminate other competitors from coming in as often or trying to get into that market by going above and beyond with that build. But at the same time, you kind of cause a problem, because then a competitor will come in and just provide attractions that now you don't have. So now that same wow factor is there for the competitor, and you still lose business. And so the best way, in my opinion, to start a park is go with the bare bones, what is unique, and evaluate your competitors, and then go from there. Year 2, add something that's exciting to it. Customer base comes back. Year 3, add another attraction. Year 4, add another attraction. Year 5, completely do a remodel, and that way you always have business coming back, and the revenue still climbs. And when it hits that plateau, that tells you got to do something. And by doing something is offering something unique. And so starting off with all your eggs in a basket, it's good for the first 2 years. But that 3rd year, you're going to see a big, dramatic decrease in sales because of that.
Luke, I'm curious, you've given us a lot of great wins that you and Flying Squirrel and your organizations have come across and made happen. I shouldn't say come across. I mean, you really made them happen. But I'm also curious, as sort of a serial entrepreneur, what hasn't worked? Like, I'm sure you've tried things that just didn't come to fruition. So I'm curious if you have any of those stories you could share.
Yeah, there's trial by error is really the way you learn, and you learn hard, because usually that involves, you already had an investment, you had an idea, you had a design, and then you spent money on it, and it really completely failed. What we've tried in the past is, what we failed on is basically trial by error for our layouts of our parks. The first 6 parks that we ever built back in the day. You walk in, if I walked into that park now, I would laugh about it, thinking like, wow, I can't even believe we designed it this way. Wow, look at this blind spot. So the layouts of the trampoline courts and the overall parent perspective is a big failure we did, and we actually failed on it for 5 parks. And that's a big impact, because it's really, at the end of the day, who's spending the money? Well, the parents. Yeah, sure, kids want to go, but if the parent doesn't feel comfortable, why are they going to spend the money? They rather save the money, even though the kid wants to go. But if they feel comfortable, they're going to come there. So I believe our first 5 parks that we ever built in 2009 and up, really, we failed at that layout, according to the parents' perspective. And also, we failed at the safety perspective, because at that time, IATP was not even a thing, There was no International Association of Trampoline Parks. There was no standards. There was really nothing. It was, let's build this and open her up and see what happens, right? So learning with safety and the overall layout and the parents' perspective we failed at first, but we learned from our failure and really adapted and changed that going forward.
You mentioned IATP a couple of minutes ago, the International Association of Trampoline Parks, and you were recently awarded the Community Service Award from IATP. So I guess this is a little bit shifting gears here, but curious about just what your community service initiatives are that ultimately resulted in getting that award.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good one. That's an emotional topic. That award really came from the contributions we made in our Guatemala City trampoline park. So there we opened up a trampoline park, and near there is the dump. And at the dump, there's over 500 kids that actually live in the trash. And so these kids and families that live in the trash, they build their homes out of the trash, they eat the trash, they're malnutrition. After visiting that dump, upon opening that park and that dump there in Guatemala, really gained a perspective on life in general, and how fortunate we are as Americans to be able to be, healthy, safe, and if you can't afford something, there's an organization that helps you out with it, or you have a homeless shelter to go to. Well, in Guatemala, all these kids and families live in the trash, and they literally have babies in the dump, and there's no doctors, no nurses, nothing. And going through and seeing the families and the kids hugging you and seeing how they live really opened our eyes. And it's so sad that, everyone that we're with was crying and just couldn't believe how these families were living. And at the time, the only people helping them out was one church, and the church provided rice and tortillas once a week for a meal for these kids. And so we asked them, so how do you get the kids fed, let's say, every day? How do you really go about taking care of these kids? Well, the church was in debt with providing rice and tortillas and food for the kids. They only could do once a week, and sometimes they couldn't do it at all because they didn't have the money. And so after that moment, my sister, she currently lives in Guatemala 6 months out of the year, and she's a social worker. And so she spent a lot of time going down to the dump and feeding these kids and bringing food on her own time, and really spending time and taking kids that needed some, hospital, they needed something to really get their hopes up, and really their health in general was horrible. And so what we did with that park there is we took all the church's debt and we paid it off. And so we paid the church's debt off. That way they could feed the kids twice a week. And then on top of that, what we did is we bought food for the church to feed them once a day. And every single dollar from that park actually went to the children of the dump, and we did not profit $1. We have not done any capital distribution. It all just goes to take care of those kids at the dump. And that's a big moment for us, because at the end of the day, it feels good to know that those kids actually get a meal. Yeah, they're living in a dump still, but we're doing as much as we can to provide that community with something. And those kids have nothing to look forward to. Those families have nothing to look forward to. Their education doesn't even exist. They don't even know what school is. They don't even know what English class, or have that experience of going to high school or middle school, or the experience of sleeping in a bed with a mattress. And those little things we all take for granted every day. And over 500 kids can't even experience that. But at least they're getting fed and they have food now. And so that was one of our major contributions, was taking care of those kids and sacrificing our revenue from that location to do so. But it feels good knowing that we were able to help out. And so that's how that award came about for the Guatemala location, is that charitable contribution.
Yeah, it definitely seems very well deserved for the efforts that you're putting in down there. And, I just applaud that kind of vision to be able to do that. And quite frankly, to be able to, like you said, sacrifice that revenue, because a lot of people wouldn't want to do that, right? Yeah, we'll say it's a good cause, but putting your money where your mouth is a different animal. So what was it that inspired you to do that? I mean, I know you said seeing them was kind of heartbreaking, but was there anything else that kind of inspired you to make that kind of leap?
Well, for every location, we do give back to the community. That's one of our biggest goals is, when you open a business, let's say in Canada, no matter what, if you're in a province and you have a business and you're operating, you provide jobs and you're making money, the best thing to do is provide back to the community to show that you actually care. Because at the end of the day, the community is what makes the business work. So giving back to the community and saying thanks for that is how we like to operate. Now, by doing that, we do a lot of bouncing for bucks fundraisers for charities. We do a lot of donations. We do canned food drives, and then we also provide donations for food for shelters for kids. And we also work with Boys and Girls Clubs. We provide free jump time for them and other organizations, adoption places. We let them know, go ahead and bring the kids in. It's on us. We want them to have a good time, experience it, regardless if they have the funds to do so or not. And so a big reason Guatemala really came into play is just seeing that whole perspective and opening your eyes that, in the morning, brushing your teeth. I mean, those kids don't even have a toothbrush. I mean, just the little things really make you think about your life in general and how lucky and fortunate you are. And when it comes down to a toothbrush or sleeping in a bed with a mattress with sheets, they're sleeping on the dirt floor with nothing besides what they found in the trash. Their food they're eating is leftover food that someone threw away. They don't even know, they don't have TV, they don't have internet. They don't even know what's going on in the world. They're taking care of themselves and they're living in a dump with over 500 people. Now you probably understand how tight the family is, but these families are 5 to 10 people living in a 10 to 15 square foot space. Mm-hmm. So when you have the raining season in Guatemala, the raindrops are the size of quarters. I mean, you go outside and I'm talking 1 second, you're drenched. Now imagine how they're living in the raining season. They're soaked 24/7. I mean, just to be dry is just for us to have a roof over our heads. Everyone takes that for granted. And so when you see these kids and see how happy they are and running around, I mean, they're enjoying life and they have nothing. And at the end of the day, what is other people doing for them? Well, there's not very many people helping them out because in Guatemala, it's very, well, you take care of yourself type mentality. So in order for someone to take care of them, it's got to be someone that's willing to give up and sacrifice, a lot of money to be able to take care of that many people.
Yeah.
And so that's a big, emotional impact that makes us feel good. And we've also taken a few kids and one in general, and we've also paid for their college. So they didn't have a chance to go to university. They didn't have the money. They didn't have the family. But this particular kid was very smart, and if he had the opportunity and if it was given to him, he'd probably put 110% dedication and motivation to succeed. And so we also did pay for his college and university, and he did graduate, and he graduated with a 4.0. So
wow.
That just kind of shows you with people that are not as fortunate as everyone, it takes everything for granted today. When they get an opportunity, they're gonna respect that, and they're gonna give 110% effort to succeed if they have the opportunity. The hard part is most people don't have that opportunity, and so we're very fortunate to be able to provide for one individual to go to college and to feed the kids of the dump, and that in general is rewarding to us enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say I'm really glad that we had the opportunity to hear this story and just everything that you're doing, at all locations, and then, particularly specifically with, with these children in Guatemala. And when I think about it, it is stories like this that just make me very happy and very thankful to be in this industry. Because if you think of like the nuts and bolts of what you do, your trampoline park, right? You provide entertainment, you provide, fun on, weekends or holidays or whatever it is, maybe bringing families together. And then when you pull back, it's so much more than that. And being able to have that opportunity to completely forego all of the profit that you have from this one location where there was so much energy and resources that went into just getting it open and operating it every single day. And then I think about COVID, and I think about the term, essential businesses, and how I've hated that term from the start, or non-essential businesses, because what you're doing is indisputably essential down in Guatemala, right? It is, you know,
Right.
it's so much more than, you know, than what meets the eye and what most people see. So I just want to just want to say that I think it's amazing that that you're doing that and that you were able to share this story. So we're starting to wind down just a little bit and run low on time, but kind of along the lines of your entrepreneurial endeavors and, you know, being a startup junkie, and this is switching gears a little bit. How did you end up in the dog treat business? That is definitely something that we're really curious to learn about that after looking through, you know, your list of initiatives that you're involved in.
That's an interesting one. That comes down to being a startup junkie and then also having the knowledge to start a business in almost any country and knowing the processes and also patenting and inventions and all of that. You know, a lot of people have good ideas, and this particular one was from a friend of ours from college. He was starting he's a fisherman from Seattle, and he fishes 24/7 commercially. And his idea was to start a fish jerky company. And so he sent us a sample and wanted to know if we were interested. He doesn't know business, but he's got the idea. He knows how to do it. And, you know, particularly I like fish, but when it comes down to fish jerky, I don't see myself buying that in the store at all. I thought about me buying fish jerky, eating fish jerky while my girlfriend's sitting in the car and then talking to her and then, you know, going on a date or, you know, I mean, bad breath kills the whole vibe. But what did happen?
So how do you make, is it just like dried out fish? I mean, thinking of just like beef jerky or like turkey jerky, like
yeah. Basically, it's 100% all natural fish straight from the fillet, and then there's a proprietary drying process. The oven we have is massive. I mean, it's probably 5,000 square feet size oven. If you can think of the world's largest oven, we have it, and it's a slow process. It's dried over a period of almost 12 hours, and it's got to be done perfectly so it's not too moist, but it's still dry enough and flaky. Now it's human grade. It's 100% natural. Now, if you ate it, it's good, but at the same time, no, you're not going to be able to sell it. No one's going to buy a bag of fish jerky. I'm sorry. And so it came down to where my brother has an English bulldog or a French bulldog, and he gave one piece to the dog, and wow. All I can say is now you have the world's most annoying dog, because not only did he not eat any other treats, he wouldn't eat his food, and all he did was sit there and bark at the cupboard that the fish jerky was located in. And that's all he did for literally every day straight. And you literally have to lock him in a different room so he would stop barking at that cupboard. And you let him out and he goes straight to that cupboard. Then we decided to give it to a few other dogs and same reaction. So then that's when the idea with our partner now and friend who came up with the idea of the jerky, we're like, this is not human grade. This is not a human market, but what market this is for is pets, because it makes them absolutely insane. And it's natural, it's healthy, it's filled with omega-3s, it's good for their hair, skin. It's an all-natural treat. And most dog treats to this day are filled with fillers, they're made in China, they're expensive, and it's not healthy. So then it turned into, all right, let's pursue the dog treat industry and see how well that would work. Well, creating a dog treat is actually fairly simple because the regulations are not near as complicated as a human grade FDA certified product. And so, well, how much does the oven cost? Well, there's not one out there. So what we did is partnered up with another engineer, and so designed the oven, and we got that design done, and then we had the oven made, and then it took about 8 months to almost a year to assemble this so-called oven design that's never been done. Now, with no instructions. So it was a long startup process, but the overall dog treat business and the interest from customers, it's been at every single marketplace in Seattle, all the local markets that they have on the weekend. And the funny thing is, Cam Chancellor from the Seattle Seahawks bought some. And immediately he hit us all up and said, I need this dog treat. My dogs are going insane. They won't eat anything else. and how can I invest? How can I get some ownership of this? Because this is insane. How much my dogs like it. You have a product here. Since it's a startup, we like to bootstrap it, try to open it up as minimal cost, no investment whatsoever, and so we pursued it that way, bootstrapping it, and to this day, we're now operating, and it's very popular. And we're about to hit the big major chains. They're all interested after they got the samples, and that marketing video that was also done by a friend in LA with us, and so our whole marketing approach is, feed your dog treats for royalty, because really the treat is 100% human grade. You could eat it. Your breath's going to smell like fish, but other than that, you can eat it. It tastes good, healthy for the dogs, and that was our whole concept: luxury dog treats that are healthy and that are different. It's not the standard dog treat, which is why we kind of came up with that kind of VIP status marketing video, because that's really how the dog feels after they eat that treat. They feel like, wow, what is this? I want more, and thank you. And they'll do anything for it. I was able to train my dog to roll over. I was able to train my dog to do all sorts of tricks, not because of my training skills, but because of the fish bark. They wanted it so bad. So it's kind of how we got into that business.
Wow. So as a relatively new dog owner myself, I'm very interested in that. So Josh, thank you for asking that, because I was going to anyway. But Luke, is that commercially available yet?
You can't order it online yet. We're about to launch that process, but I'll ship you guys some. So
I have a dog, so you can. I'll take Matt's. I'll take Otis's testimonial for it.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
You try it out yourself, Josh. Eat some.
All right. If you send me some, I'll try it. I'll send you a video of me trying. Is it Fishbark? Fishbark.com?
Fishbark. Yep. Fishbark. Yep.
Yeah, and awesome. my dog already thinks he's royalty, so this will be perfect. So, Luke, this has been a fascinating conversation. Just love all the different angles that we've been able to take with it. So you've already mentioned Fishbark, and that's one of the things you've been working on. But if people wanted to either get in touch with you or find out more about Flying Squirrel, where would you send them?
I'll say, hit me up on the LinkedIn page. Request to be a part of my network and message me. That'd be the best option.
Sounds good. Excellent. Well, Luke, thank you so much, for your time today. Before we wrap this up, any final words of wisdom for our audience out there?
Yeah, I'd say if you're passionate about it, go with your guts and move forward. If you have the confidence in your product or service and the passion is there, at the end of the day, it's all about pursuing your dream, your idea, and it will work if you put 110% effort into it. And just go for it, and that's what we've done. And so far, you fail, but you learn from your failures, and then from there on out, it just gets better.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. That definitely, this has been such an interesting conversation. Like we said, very very wide ranging, covering a lot of different topics, and very inspiring out there too. So we really appreciate your time spent today for chatting with us, and to everyone out there listening, as usual, we are all Attraction Pros.
Thanks for listening to the Attraction Pros podcast.
Make sure to subscribe so you can tune in when new episodes release, and even better, please leave us a review on iTunes.
For more information, visit AttractionPros.com.